Back, Chapter 2 of Dare to Sell, read by Todd Scrima. The calls. Late that afternoon, Lauren received 2 calls and she would never forget. The first was from Josh, an area manager at Summit Funding. He introduced himself warmly before diving in. Lauren, I'm glad to connect. How do you know Chris? I don't, Lauren admitted. I saw him on social media and he gave a presentation at my mastermind group this morning, and honestly, he blew everyone away. Josh didn't miss a beat. What exactly blew you away? Well, he talked about how realtors could add 30 or more deals a year, showed proof, and then booked meetings with almost everyone in the room, and it was seamless. I'd never seen something like that. Josh nodded over the phone. That's what I call the value equation. It's how we focus on giving clients exactly what they want, fast and effectively. I have a mentor who calls the mortgage business the sea of sameness. And if you don't create value, you're just another commodity. Lauren frowned. Well, how do you create that kind of value? Simple. Think about Amazon. What's their value? Convenience? Exactly. They save people time. Same with Uber. They didn't just compete with taxis. They obliterated them by solving the problem better. Forget how they do it. The result is what matters. Now, let me ask you a question. How many loans did you close last year? 28, Lauren said, wincing. I used to close 65 or 80. What's keeping you up at night? Lauren hesitated, then said, going from 250,000 a year to 100,000 a year, it's crushing. I'm snapping at my family, gaining weight, and worst of all, I can't even see a way out. Josh's voice dropped. I know that feeling. 6 years ago, I had months where I only closed 1 loan. I was petrified. I sat down to write my child support check and realized it was going to bounce. I had to call my ex-wife and ask for time. It was humiliating. I felt like a deadbeat dad, like I didn't even deserve to be in the business. And that's when I met Todd. He didn't just teach me how to survive. He showed me how to dominate, and it changed my entire life. Who is this Todd guy? Lauren asked. Chris said something similar. He's our CEO at Summit Funding, and he's responsible for strategy. Josh replied. The same month I met him, I never looked back. My income doubled the next 2 months and has gone up consistently ever since. Almost as important as the money, I have more skills around marketing and sales. It is what holds 90% of loan officers back. Todd often says the average sales and marketing skills of most loan officers is about a 2 out of 10. We're just doing it wrong. Well, I feel like it too. He's not wrong. It's not just about income, Lauren. It's also about how you feel. When you're confident and you do things like Chris did today, you enjoy your career. Did you ever spend over 60% of your waking hours at work? Did you know that we spend over 60% of our waking hours at work? I never thought of it, Lauren said. Well, we do, Josh said. Don't you think it's important to enjoy 60% of your life? Of course, I see it. Look, the truth is the mortgage industry was easy for almost 30 years in a row, Josh said. We either had declining rates, refi booms, or purchase booms. We believe that caused the industry to not develop its skills as a whole, and now many people are just stuck. Do you know only 4% of 320,000 loan officers in America close more than 20 million a year in volume? That means that only 4 out of 100 loan officers made $200,000 or more last year. And that sucks. I had no idea, Lauren said. Knowledge is power, Josh said. Skills are power times 10. If I could help you develop your sales and marketing skills so you could easily make $250,000 or more per year, would you be interested in that? Yes, of course. Great. You are going to receive a video to watch via text, and I will have Jim's assistant set up a Zoom call. Jim is our head coach here at Summit Funding, and he can tell you more about how all of it works, said Josh. Does that sound good? That would be great. Sounds great, said Josh. I really appreciate your time and thank you for being so open. That is a value that we deeply admire. If all this comes together, I will make you 3 promises. They are: you will feel confident again, you will make more money than your best year ever, and you'll retire a multimillionaire. If not, we'll write you a $30,000 I'm sorry check. Or you can continue down your path you are now, and frankly, I think your big risk is you won't enjoy what you do, or you'll either suffer through it or eventually find something else to do. Have a beautiful day, and I look forward to our next chat. Lauren got off the phone and felt great. Just then her phone rang, hoping it was a new loan lead. Lauren answered the phone. Hello? Hi, Lauren. This is Bob from Pharmaceuticals of America. I'm following up on your inquiry about pharmaceutical sales rep position we have open. Do you have a few minutes to chat? Yes, thank you for calling, she said. We've been looking for a rep in your area for quite a while, Bob said. Do you know much about what we do? Well, I know that you have a drug called Ethos and some others, and I assume you sell them to doctors. Exactly. We specialize in diabetes treatments, and we hold 4 major patents on other drugs. The company's been growing at a 20% annually for 10 years, and our culture is fantastic. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Sure. I've been in the mortgage business for 12 years, and I've done well. The market is really rough right now, and I've been thinking about changing careers. I'm happily married with 2 kids, and my husband is a construction manager. Well, thanks for sharing that, Lauren. What are your salary expectations? Well, for the past 8 years, I've averaged about $250,000 annually. This year has been rough. I'll make about $100,000. Wow, that's impressive, Bob said. So why are you considering this role? I'm looking for something more stable, Lauren replied. Well, that makes sense, says Bob. How would you rate your sales skills on a scale of 1 to 10? Lauren hesitated, hearing Josh's voice in her head telling her she was probably a 2. I'd say about a 7. Let me be more specific, Bob said. How many calls and meetings do you have each day? Well, Lauren said, probably 1 meeting and 4 or 5 calls a day. Are they focused on new business? Bob said. Not usually, she admitted. Maybe 1 new prospect meeting per week. Lauren, can I be direct? Of course, Lauren said. Our sales culture is pretty intense, Bob explained. We believe sales is about influence and transferring passion. Our reps make about 20 calls every day and see 10 doctors in person every day. It's all tracked through an app, including signatures on drug samples. Our best rep last year made $270,000. Now, honestly, I don't think this role is a good fit for you. If you put half of that level of effort into your current field, I'm guessing you'd make about $500,000. If I were in your shoes, I'd reapply myself to what you already know and build from there. And I hope that doesn't come across as rude, Bob said. It's just my honest advice. No, Bob, it's not rude, Lauren said. It's just hard to hear. Well, thank you for your time, Lauren, and I wish you the best of luck. Bob hung up, leaving Lauren sitting stunned in silence. 10 in-person sales calls a day? Is he serious? She couldn't decide if he was exaggerating, but something told her he probably wasn't. Just then, Lauren received a text. She clicked on it, and it was from Jim Reed at Summit Funny. It was a video. She clicked on it, and was Jim telling her how excited he was to meet with her and what they would discuss on their call. There was something about him, a confidence mixed with approachability. At home, Lauren shared her day with Mark, who had exciting news of his own. His company had just landed 4 major projects totaling $18 million, one of the biggest sales days they've ever had. Wow. At least if I'm unemployed, you won't be, Lauren said. How did they pull that off? Well, Mark said, last year they brought in setters. They built a database, added some value, and had these setters constantly reaching out to different clients, trying to drum up business. Tom, our top salesperson, told me he went from 1 or 2 quality meetings a week to 5. They're just busier and they're getting more at bats. Lauren considered it. Is this what Chris was doing? She wasn't sure if she liked him, but there was no denying that he was doing way better than her. She had already mentioned her encounter with Chris to Mark. What's Chris doing differently than you, Mark said. I don't really know, Lauren said. If I were you, I'd find out, Mark said. He closed almost as many loans in 1 month as you did in a year. Now, I'm not trying to be harsh, but he's doing something that you're not. I'd make it my mission to figure that out. Lauren remembered something she'd heard at a Tony Robbins event. Find someone who has the results you want and copy them. Exactly. That night, she lay awake, restless. What if I can't change? For 2 years, she'd blamed the market, and everyone in her office had echoed the same excuse. What if we're wrong? Is my ego too big to admit I need to learn? Or am I just afraid of trying something new? The question swirled in her mind, keeping her from sleeping again, but this time it felt different. So, ladies and gentlemen, as some bonus material for the end of this chapter, I think what we're starting to see with Lauren is a little bit of sales process, a little bit of honesty, and this chapter is also alluding to something that I believe strongly in, and that is I don't believe that most salespeople have the amount of time where they could make hundreds of calls a month and go on the appointments and develop the marketing material and do their social media. So this chapter is starting to allude to the idea that doing everything yourself probably is not how you're going to make a lot of money. So there's several things at work here that will set up some other chapters. I especially like the blunt honesty that the pharmaceutical manager Bob said. He says, "Hey, our salespeople make 20 calls a day, and our salespeople see 10 doctors a day." And when you say that to most salespeople, they're like, "No way is that possible." And what I will tell you is that we do have to increase our sales metrics in order to make more money. That's one of the reasons you need help. But there's another part when I have these conversations with people, they tell me that I'm crazy and they tell me it can't be done until I show them people that are doing those kind of metrics. And that's why they make $500,000 or $1 million a year. Now, I mentioned this in the previous chapter, but it's fresh in my brain. I have a family member who is looking to change careers, and he's in the car business. Now, this gentleman, this is no exaggeration at all, he made $106,000 last year, and he is the number one producer at a new car company and a dealership. And he's been doing it for 6 years, made $106,000. Last year, he got 3 weekends off in a year, 3 weekends. He, without exaggeration, is working 65 to 70 hours a week. That's not an exaggeration. He was supposed to be at a graduation party for his nephew, and he didn't get home from working until 1 o'clock in the morning. When I talked to him the next day, he told me that was normal. So I believe that many salespeople have a drastically fragmented or messed up idea of what their job is and just how much contact and sales presentations we need to do in order to be successful. And so that's one of the main principles that I'm alluding to in this chapter, is that people have a hard time driving home and saying, "Hey, I only made one real phone call today, and I only saw one person or talked to 2 people." And then they wonder why they're not making more money. We make money in sales when we do things that make us money. In the loan business, for example, it would be meeting with a borrower would be closest to the money. Second closest to the money would be meeting with a referral account, such as a realtor, that could send us a lead. And if we're doing those 2 things, either over the phone and or in person, we are working on making money. Everything else is what I call red time. That means it's not making money, and we should minimize it as much as possible. And so it's a mindset to get into where we are like, hey, how do I design my week? How do I design my day so that I am doing the 2 things that make me the most money? And so we'll get into this a little bit more as we go through this. So those are some major principles that we're going through. The last thing I would mention is Lauren is beginning in the very beginning stages of changing her belief system. And I will tell you that we're not going to change as adults until we start to change our belief system. And the belief system can be as simple as Chris is closing 22 loans in the same month I close 2, where there's learning there. I'm doing something wrong. And if I just got to half of where he was, I would quadruple my income. But yet, when you have these conversations one-on-one with people like I do every day, they will immediately go to, that can't be done. I wasn't raised that way. That's not how I used to do it. And everything becomes an excuse. Everything becomes a blame game. Instead of just keeping it really simple and saying, hey, this company or this person is doing something extraordinary. How do I learn from that person? How do I understand sales sequence? How do I get 3 or 4 in-person meetings a day so that I have a chance of getting leads or I have a chance of doing a loan? And when we start with that growth mindset and that curious mindset, we start to do amazing things. And that's really the point that she's at, is she's just starting to feel like, hey, I just had a pharmaceutical sales rep that said, I'm going to have to work way harder to make the same or less money. And he was kind of honest with her, and it's starting to sink in. So I hope that you keep reading because we're going to delve into chapter 3, which is a doozy. Thank you.